everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Maduro Show. I'm Nikki Maduro. She's Kim McAllister. I have my cocktail. I don't think that there's any cocktail in that Stanley cup of yours, is there?
You know what's in my Stanley cup?
What?
I just polished off one Stanley cup. I bring in the next. It is mango iced tea.
Oh, that's not as good
from
as my cocktail,
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Oh.
It is summery and refreshing.
Ooh.
You know, you can add a little something special to your mango iced tea, and it turns into something else.
You can indeed. By the way, you guys, click the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, any way that you can support the show, because we are 100% crowd-funded. We love the Patreon and the PayPals and the super stickers as well. And thank you all. You guys hop off the show and donate to our PayPal so many times, and we love you guys so very much. Just because you're talking about mango refreshers, it made me think about my past weekend. Remember, I told you I was going down to LA with the kids for the Savannah Bananas.
How was it?
I am telling you, if you guys go to the Savannah Bananas website, you got to sign up for the lottery. It's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie. You might not get chosen every year. But who knows? I signed up for the lottery, and in my second year, I got in. Okay. So you might get in your first year. Who knows? It is such a good time. And they do things like they open up the gates, 2 hours early. We only got there. I'm telling you, LA traffic sucks. We left at 8:15. We stopped for lunch, but I'm telling you, once we got into LA, 2 hours to go 5 miles. It was absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, we didn't have a lot of time beforehand, so we kind of delayed getting into the park. But all I'm saying is, it is a party before. It is a party after. They have bands, they have games, they have things going on on the field. It is just a damn good time from the beginning to the end.
Wow.
And there's just fun, and it's singing and it's dancing, and I'll bring up some pictures during the show, so I'll show you guys some fun things. But at the end, we're leaving and going to the plaza where there's an after party with bands, and you can take pictures with some of the players, and they're just handing out Dunkin' Donuts gift cards.
Wow.
Okay, so the funny thing is there's 2 girls at one of the exits, and they're holding a box, and literally the box is full to the brim of $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift cards. Now, one girl understood the assignment. She had a handful of them, and she just handing them out. The other girl started apparently, according to my husband, because I just took mine and walked away, started freaking out. Everyone was trying to grab them, and she just covered the box like it was gold or something.
Like a stampede.
Well, give them up. If you would just
it's just a $5 donut card. Why do people freak out?
I think she was freaking out because everyone was trying to grab one, and it's just just give them out, hand them out. But anyways, so we all each got one. So that's what, $20. We went to Dunkin' Donuts. I have not been inside a Dunkin' Donuts in forever. Why do I go to Dunkin'? I don't eat donuts that often, whatever. They, though, have some mango pineapple refresher thing.
Oh.
It was tart. It was a little, my daughter, Marley, got it because she loves those refresher things from Starbucks or whatever. Yeah. I was thinking of you. I was like, you know what this needs?
I'd probably like that.
It needs a shot of vodka in it. That's what would make it better. Not for my daughter, but for
maybe
me.
A little bit of rum. Good job. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a little donut. They have those little stuffed bagel bite things, little round ones. I had a couple of those. Dunkin' Donuts. I don't particularly care for their coffee. I got an Americano. It was all right. It wasn't really hitting the spot, but some people like Dunkin' Donuts. So I was like, yeah. But I will tell you this: the Savannah Bananas, was it worth the 8-hour drive down, 5.5-hour drive back? I think it was a good experience. So if you guys want to check it out, it was at Angel Stadium. If you like baseball, it was singing, it was dancing. They have constant music, funny music. They had the chunky kid from the Sandlot out there hitting balls. They had Lackey, one of the I guess he was a World Series player. Forgive me, I'm not a baseball fan. He was out there pitching. So they have all kinds of people out there. It was just a damn good time. So if you ever get an opportunity and you like baseball, they sing, they dance, they do all kinds of fun things. So go check it out.
Who was there? I was thinking of you because I saw Alex Stone, who is a colleague and news of ours. He was at the same game where you were.
Was he
and
there
posting
Saturday? Because
pictures
it
of
was
him.
2 games, Friday and Saturday. Was he there Saturday?
I think he was there the same day you were,
Oh,
Saturday, right? Yeah, yeah.
how awesome.
I was
Yeah.
hoping you would see each other, but you didn't.
Well, you don't even get to pick
Yeah.
your seats. So you pay when you get into the lottery, then you get to buy a zone. Like there's 3 price levels. I chose the middle because I'm like, come on now. But they're not that expensive. I guess I could have splurged. Part of me was like, I should have. I got the middle one, and then you don't even get to choose your seats. They just choose for you depending on how quickly you jumped at your time zone. I mean, none of the seats, I guess, are bad, but we were on the lower, but kind of like near right field. I don't know. It was just a good time. It didn't really matter. We had a ball. It was so much
Yeah, that's
fun.
good. I'm
So
so glad. What a good
yeah,
family memories.
it was definitely a good family
Mhm.
memory. It was a mini road trip to lead into our gigantic road trip, which brings us to we're actually having a guest coming on in a little
Yeah.
bit, Kim. It's going to be this gentleman. He's from the deputy director of Center for Western Priorities,
Mhm.
Aaron Weiss. And what, Kim, he was mentioned in this article talking about we're getting all these details now of what the budget cuts are going to do to the National Park Service this summer
Mhm.
and moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's and it's an advocacy group for basically our nation's resources, our national parks, and he's got some interesting information about what it's going to look like this summer for anyone planning to go to a national park. But what I wanted to ask you first of all, or what I wanted
Mhm.
to let you know first of all, is I came across this book. We've interviewed on the Mark Thompson show, our sister show,
Mhm.
this author 2 different times.
Mhm.
And I really, really think
I need to
that
write this down. Hold on. I gotta get my note. Okay, go
I
ahead.
really think that you need to buy this book
I
and
need to
take
buy it.
it,
I'm gonna get a library, but okay, go ahead.
go whatever you got to do, and get
The
this book. It's called
I've heard of this book.
Mhm. It's called The
Yes.
Last American Road Trip. It's by Sarah Kendzior,
Mhm.
who's an amazing journalist, a prolific author. Actually, she's going to have her very first article posted on DC Report, which is David K. Johnston's site that he founded. But this is a trip that she took with her husband and her children across America, where she just kind of experiences America, what it was, what it is, her feelings about the country. And I think it would be really poignant for you to read that on your road trip this summer. The Last
I
American
need
Road
to
Trip.
do it. I
Mhm.
need to get that because again, and I've mentioned, and you guys
Yeah.
know how excited I am about this. If you haven't heard, I'm taking a cross country road trip. We are
Mhm.
taking the northern route. It's going to end in New Orleans, and then we're flying home because I can't do the entire loop. But my husband and my 2 kids and myself, and I've never done it. I mean, I've been to a number of states in the
Mhm.
United States, but I've never done something like this before.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see parts of the country by car, um, and experience it and
Yeah.
meet the people. And we're also going to be doing roller coasters and amusement parks,
Fun.
which is fun, but also gives you some insight
Mhm.
into the people, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be encountering people in their kind of element. I know it's
Yeah.
touristy, but still. And I just want to see what's going to stick, right? But we were talking before the show, we're campers also.
Mhm.
And my husband and I were going to do an RV. And then we're like, we've never RV'd before. I don't think the first time we RV,
Like,
we
what, an
should go all
RV
the way
across
across the
America?
country.
Yeah. From San
Probably not a good
Jose to
idea.
God knows where, right.
Probably not a good idea. But
Mhm.
I was thinking, well, maybe even if we do rent a car, we
Yeah.
can camp, save some money on a hotel or whatever.
Sure.
Not when I'm listening to these budget cuts. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
No. I can only imagine
Yeah.
one, BS show that it's going to be with reservations. Or
Yep.
remember, we were hearing there was like nobody with the key to open the bathrooms
Right.
at Yosemite. Like,
But the
imagine
question
that
is,
wasn't even
do you
paid.
want them to open the bathrooms? Like, how long has it been since that's been cleaned?
But
And you see people hanging banners from,
yes,
monuments in Yosemite about the cuts and how horrible things are going to be and protests and everything else. So before you started your road trip, I thought it would be good to talk to an expert.
exactly. And so
Mhm.
let's bring him on. His name is Aaron Weiss. He is the deputy director at Center for Western Priorities. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the Nikki Maduro show.
Hey, Nikki, it is great to meet you and great to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've been hearing obviously about these budget cuts. We saw a little bit about the impact, obviously, with all the firings of the national park service members. We heard the tragic stories about it. I guess first off, explain the Center for Western Priorities, your organization, and your, I guess, reaction first off to the cuts that have been made so far.
So we are a public lands advocacy and watchdog group. We're based in Denver. We focus our efforts primarily on the Mountain West states, but because we focus on public lands, that affects national parks all over.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll end up working on stuff in California, Alaska, even Maine sometimes. And obviously what we're seeing here right now from this administration is affecting everyone all across the country. So yeah, we saw this chaos start the very first week when Trump and Elon Musk came in, and we saw DOJ right off the bat rescind job offers that were pending to all of the seasonal employees. And the problem is, in that January, February timeframe, that's the time when all of the national parks and national forests and Bureau of Land Management sites are doing that staffing up for summer. So by coming in and having no idea what they're doing, they created this chaos from day one, which is what we are seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got worse from there. Then they fired everyone who is considered probationary, which is anyone who had been employed for less than 2 years. So you're now getting rid of a whole lot of the folks who would be hiring the seasonal employees who you would need to have national parks fully staffed up for summer. And what we're seeing now that we are into the summer vacation season is that, in fact, our national parks are woefully understaffed. The National Parks Conservation Association got a hold of the internal numbers from the Interior Department's computer system. Don't know how they got them, but really great that they were able to, because of course they aren't being transparent about any of this. And what they've discovered is that there are only 3,300 seasonal employees hired for the National Park Service. And the Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, had told Congress, oh no, we're hiring 5,000 people. Guess what? They did not. And they should be hiring up to like 7,000 people to offset all of those brand new employees, the probationary ones. So right now we are seeing that national park staffing is off by, depending on how you want to count, 30, 50, 60% as everyone is heading in there for their summer vacation. It's not a good setup.
Okay, so I know you'd have to look into a crystal ball, but it doesn't seem that it would be that hard. Kind of paint a picture. What is this? I mean, we're at the beginning, Memorial Day, the unofficial start of summer. What can people expect as they try to visit some of the popular and maybe even off the beaten path parks this summer?
It means that we know these parks are stretched thin just to begin with. That it's going to be, I mean, we're seeing in Yosemite where they are instructing scientists whose job it is to be monitoring these ecosystems. They've been instructed to pick up latrine cleaning shifts. Now, I want to make it clear, I am not in any way denigrating the folks who clean the latrines in our national parks. That is the most important job, but you have to hire the folks to do that, right? And so you're robbing Peter to pay Paul right off the bat here when you're taking folks out of their regular jobs and telling them, nope, you get to go start cleaning bathrooms now. We're seeing tours canceled in places like Arches. There's a section of the park called Fiery Furnace, where you had a lot of folks getting lost and even dying back in the 90s. And so right now you're supposed to have a permit or a guided tour to go into the Fiery Furnace. The Park Service canceled those. They don't have enough folks to lead the permits or to lead the tours or give the instructions that you need in order to go do that on your own with a permit.
So that's more about safety than it is about cleanliness, right?
Right. And that's the next risk, because even in places like Grand Canyon, every year some number of folks don't pay attention to the rules. They literally fall off the edge and die. Many more people go out unprepared below the rim and they have to get rescued. We saw last week, I think there's something like 13 helicopter rescues in the Grand Canyon. Eventually, if you don't have the staff to do that, you're going to have people getting in trouble. Yellowstone, every year, you have a few folks who really don't pay attention and try to pet the bison. And that never works out well for you.
Never does. They don't look as fast as they are, right?
We like to call them Turons,
right.
yes.
They may be friend shaped. They are not friends.
No.
So don't snuggle the bison. And
Right.
inevitably, you need those rangers there to keep the folks from doing that, from stepping off the
Mhm.
boardwalk, and from dipping their toes in the Great Prismatic Spring, which does not work out well for your toes or the spring.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough people to do that, you are going to have more situations like that, putting both the visitors and the natural resources and the wildlife all at risk.
Aaron, do you think that this summer, I mean, how optimistic are you that, and sadly,
Yeah.
that enough bad things are going to happen where they're going to be able to kind of plug the holes? Or are we just kind of screwed that they've already doomed us, that this summer these things are going to happen because they screwed us so early in the year?
It's a good question. It's too early to say. There's a world in which they reassign absolutely everybody to the front lines of the visitor center and then have essentially given up on the long-term maintenance that you need, that the folks who work in the regional offices who do everything from archaeology to signage and all that stuff. If you take all of those folks and put them right into the parks, then you're setting yourself up for failure down the road. But also, I think just given the staffing numbers that we've seen so far, the best case scenario doesn't even seem likely in that case. You just don't have enough people. And I think one of the things that you're going to see, we know they are paying attention to the places like Yellowstone and Yosemite, those top tier parks. Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, clearly is aware of those and is aware of the bad headline potential there, which means it's the smaller parks, the less visited ones, that will have even less staffing. So my family and I we're going to the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State this summer, going to head to the rainforest. And I guess you could call that one of the maybe tier 2 national parks. We just saw this last week the superintendent of Crater Lake National Park in Oregon resigned, saying he was having too many 3 a.m. mornings, not sure how he was going to handle these cuts, not being able to handle yet another communique, address cutting staffing, telling him, no, you can't keep the people safe. You just don't have these resources, but make do anyway. And NPCA says there are currently 100 park superintendent positions open across the Park Service. That's not a tenable solution here going into the future. And there's no Park Service director for that matter.
My God. I think one of the talking points, especially when Doge first began, was that this was to make government more efficient, that these were jobs that could be cut. I think that there's no one with anything between their ears that truly believes that they even knew what the people did whose jobs they cut, truly, right? I mean, there was no way they did some sort of investigation and knew what they were doing. Talk a bit about the importance of these positions, of our money and our tax dollars going to something like our national parks, our lands, and protecting this. Like, because some people are like, what does it matter if a park ranger loses his or her job? Why does that matter when we're this much in debt?
So, number one, to the debt question, America's national parks are a tremendous value. It's pocket change compared to what this country spends on, you name it, healthcare to defense, everything else. The national parks and our public lands overall are, it's changing the couch cushions. So you're not going to be able to balance the budget on parks and public lands. Full stop. I don't care. Trump tax cuts, no Trump tax cuts, whatever. This is not a significant part of the national budget conversation. So just to start there. In terms of what it means, it was Wallace Stegner a century ago who called national parks America's best idea, which is true. I mean, this is an idea that America shared with the rest of the world, the idea that you can have lands and parks that belong to everyone equally,
Yeah.
that everyone can go to and everyone can enjoy. This is something that the world didn't have till America said, hang on, this is great. And it's one of those ideas that we have shared and exported to the world and made not just America, but the whole world a better place, because you now find national parks all over the world. And America's national parks are the envy of the world because the rest of the world doesn't have a Yellowstone and a Grand Canyon and an Acadia and a Denali and Hawaii volcanoes. The list goes on and on. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, where I was growing up. It was Saguaro National Monument, and that got upgraded by Congress to a national park. And it is one of those most spectacular places to go because you can't see that anywhere else. And that ability to be part of nature and be part of what this country is something that truly priceless, but we still put a price tag on it and it's a bargain.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about drilling though now.
Yeah.
You have a dashboard on your website. Again, we're talking with Aaron Weiss. westernpriorities.org is where it goes. I guess first off, let's talk about drilling in general. What do people need to understand about the process of how drilling works, getting leases, getting drilling permits? Can you kind of explain it in layman's terms for people that may not understand how it works in the United States?
So most of America's public lands, which are not national parks, they're managed by agencies like the Bureau of Land Management, like the Forest Service. They are, in general, open to oil and gas drilling. And there are, of course, several states where there's a lot of that goes on America's public lands. New Mexico and Wyoming being the biggest, but there's a bunch here in Colorado, quite a bit in Montana, and even out Utah, California. They continue to offer leases in Nevada, but no one's really going to drill there because there's not really enough oil to extract. And of course, Alaska, where we see they continue to try to offer up more oil and gas drilling, but the industry isn't really interested up there because it's too expensive. But that process is governed by a law called the Mineral Leasing Act. That was from 1922, and that was finally updated 2 years ago with the Inflation Reduction Act. And the deal is companies, oil and gas companies, nominate lands that they want to drill on, and the Bureau of Land Management offers those lands up in a competitive leasing process. Up until 2 years ago, there was also a non-competitive process where companies could pick up those lands for as cheap as $1.50 an acre per year.
What?
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
you can lease an acre of land, public land, for $1.50 a year. I mean, you can't get a cup of coffee for that. You can get an acre of America's public lands for that if you want to drill for oil on
And suck it dry of oil right in the process.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
companies
Wow.
do pay a royalty when that oil is finally extracted, and that the rate they pay went up from 12.5% up to 16 2/3%, again, with that Mineral Leasing Act. So taxpayers do get a return from that land. And one of the things we're seeing right now in the current budget fight over Congress is Republicans are trying to drop that rate back down, get rid of all of these reforms so companies can once again pick up land for $1.50 an acre and drop the royalty rate back down to 12.5%. At the end of the day, none of that makes a difference in terms of production. Oil and gas companies, the CEOs have been crystal clear they are not going to increase production because that cuts into profits, and shareholders don't want that. 10 years ago with the fracking boom, there was essentially a race to the bottom. The banks financed all the drilling they wanted. Gas prices got cheap. Great for everyone who drives a car, but not great for the oil and gas companies. A bunch of them went bankrupt. There's a big consolidation, and the banks just will not finance that again. And the CEOs have made it clear there is nothing the Trump administration, or for that matter, the Biden administration, could do to affect the amount of drilling. So this notion that there was a war on oil under the Biden administration is pretty laughable, because oil and gas production on public lands hit an all-time high in 2024. But there's nothing that the Trump administration can do to affect that in one way or the other. They can just help pad those profits if Congress lowers the royalty rates back down.
I was just reading that the Trump administration is opening up, I think it was 13 million acres to oil and gas exploration in Alaska. In California, I mean, I worry about Alaska, but I also really worry about ocean oil exploration off of our coast. You've seen just horrible things happen, mostly in other states, but even here too, where, there's an accident that happens, you have a massive oil spill. I mean, it's not just the vista, and it's not just the marine habitat, it's the accidents that likely will happen at one point or another. And we have these national marine sanctuaries and monuments in California, and I worry that those things could change.
Yeah. At this point, no one's talking about offshore drilling off California again.
Yeah.
Again, there were some terrible spills, and it's not looking like that's in the cards anytime soon. Of course, you have lots of offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not going to dignify anyone by calling it anything else.
You're out of the press office then. You're out of the press briefing.
You're going to get banned with the AP. No.
As we know from Deepwater Horizon, that is very dangerous, and a big blowout, in fact, can be disastrous. And as we know from Exxon Valdez, that the process of transporting oil, you cannot make it completely safe. You can make it safer. But as recently as a year or two ago, you had a huge natural gas blowout in Alaska that it took ConocoPhillips months to shut down. They hit a gas pocket, and boom, there it was. And I guess the upside downside is that was just methane going into the atmosphere and not liquid oil blowout. But here in Colorado, in April, we had a massive blowout at a Chevron well in Weld County. Chevron has still not said how big that was, but it spewed both oil and fracking fluid, produced water, everywhere. To the extent that schools were shut down, folks were forced out of their homes. Of those 14 homes the folks were forced out of, last I checked, even as of last week, 9 of them were still not back in their homes because Chevron has still not fully cleaned that up. So there is no such thing as perfectly safe oil and gas drilling. You can just try to minimize the risk. But Colorado has some of the strictest oil and gas rules in the nation. It still happened here.
Of course.
So, can you tell us about your Trump drilling dashboard at the westernpriorities.org website?
So this is where we are going to be tracking oil and gas leasing and drilling during the Trump administration. And it's really that leasing where we think that you're going to see a significant increase. The Biden administration, I give them a lot of credit, really reduced the amount of land that was being offered to the core of what oil and gas companies were interested in. And they right-sized those lease sales, and companies paid more for that. Taxpayers got a better return. So you're talking about government efficiency. That's how you do it. You make those sales more efficient. What we are seeing the Trump administration plan to do here is open up hundreds of thousands more acres in the coming months. Takes a little bit of ramp up time. So we had a lease sale in Utah today. We've got a couple others coming up in Nevada and Colorado in the second quarter. And those sales we expect will get larger. Also, we expect that companies will bid on less of that at lower prices. And so that's what we're doing here with this dashboard, is to keep track and keep tabs on what the Trump administration is offering and be as transparent as possible so the American people can see if they are getting a good return from their public lands that we all own.
Then just to clarify, because you were talking about earlier about the fact that you don't think that they're going to actually be wanting to drill more, correct? So kind of walk us through.
Yeah.
Kind of walk me through that again about what you think once these lands are leased, what they're going to be doing with this land.
Right. So right now, about half of all public lands that are eligible for oil and gas leasing are already leased. And what that means is that an oil company has purchase the right to drill on that in the future. There is still a process that goes on. So it's leasing and then permitting and then drilling. So what we saw before was oil and gas companies really padding their books, just locking up that public land by saying, okay, we're going to lease this. Maybe we'll drill out in the future. Maybe we won't. Regardless, it doesn't cost us anything, basically. So we can go ahead and lock that land up. And what that means then is you can't plan for any use there during the multiple use planning process. These are lands that should also be used for recreation, for grazing, off-roading, hiking, camping, you name it. Well, if it's leased for oil and gas drilling, well, that's the first and primary use there. So it's
just sucking it up and just holding on to it. We don't get to use it.
Exactly. It's a terribly inefficient process if you are letting all of that land be leased, even if it's not producing. So that's really the concern right now. And then eventually, maybe someone drills on it if there is oil there. But we know that a lot of these lands that get locked up under lease have such low potential to ever produce land that unless the price of oil were to double tomorrow, it just doesn't pencil out. Because those areas where it is so cheap to drill, the Permian, the Bakken in North Dakota, parts of Wyoming, it just is basic economics. You're not going to drill where it is more expensive and you can't sell the product.
I'm just so frustrated. I feel like this is like a confluence of just a bunch of different things as we head towards the summer. I mean, there's a locking up the land for drilling that's probably not going to happen for a very long time. That takes away public lands that we want to use. We have a summer coming up where it's going to be, probably chaos. Like it's going to be chaos in the national parks because we don't have the workers who have been unfairly fired or let go. And then the other thing, just a side note, letting go of the, probationary people that have been there less than 2 years or less, who are probably, amongst the most enthusiastic people because they're probably like right out of college. This is their dream job. They're just starting out. They're probably the most stoked people to be there. And you just let them go is
I have a nephew. His one dream is to be a park ranger. It's what he wants to do most of
life. It's even worse than that because these are folks who had just been in their job for less than 2 years. So if you'd been at the Park Service for 20 years, but you just got promoted in December, you still got fired because you were in a probationary period.
Oh, that is
so it was a big brain drain. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know how and again, I guess this brings me to my actual question, which is, what do we do? I mean, as Americans, as people that care about our national parks, care about our lands, I just feel like there's Kim and I do this all the time where we try not to be so depressed, right? Like we try not to
it's hard. It's
hard, right? Like we don't want to wallow.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. What do we do? What are you doing, Aaron? I know you work obviously for your organization, but as an American, as a person, as a citizen who wants to go enjoy this summer, I mean, what do we do? Picking up the phone and calling your representative, yes, that's one thing, but what else can we do?
So, yes. I mean, number one, thank a park ranger. Hug a park ranger if they're a hugger. Thank them for what they are doing in absolutely terrible circumstances. It's important for them to hear that because it is not their fault that Elon Musk and Doug Burgum and Donald Trump are screwing with them in that way. So that's number one. Number two is the visibility matters, and especially about this attack on American history that we haven't even talked about yet. Speaking up and saying we expect our national parks to tell a full story of American history, warts and all, that we're not going to let Donald Trump and Doug Burgum whitewash American history. That's important. Taking those pictures, sharing them with your family members, and yes, calling your members of Congress, regardless of party, whether you've got a Democratic or a Republican representative, making sure they see it and they hear it is really important.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like going on social media. Go ahead, Kim, but showing what you're seeing this summer is going to be important. Go ahead.
Yes.
I found this at your website, westernpriorities.org, and I had not seen this story that the Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, gave this order to basically wipe away any negative pieces of history that are seen at national parks. So if you go to a national park and you see, say, I know it might not be a national park. I don't think Muir Woods is a national park, but here in California, we have Muir Woods, which is a beautiful stand of redwood trees. And there is a plaque. And I believe there's something about the racist past of John Muir. So you put the asterisk there. And then, but he also, did this wonderful thing where helped preserve nature, etc. But that would be wiped away. You wouldn't be allowed to share the negative past or the negative history. And your article talks about Manzanar National Historic Site, also in California, where they interned Japanese people, Americans during World War II. And that's the whole point of this site, is to tell America's history and to share the story in hopes that this doesn't happen again, in hopes that you see this place and you're so moved by what happened here that you walk away with another perspective. Would this be a place where you wouldn't be able to talk about anything negative that happened to these people?
I mean, the way this order is written is so broad, you have to think that they are coming for places like that, for places like Amachi National Historic Site here in Colorado, which was just protected a couple of years ago. Again, a Japanese-American concentration camp in Colorado, where the only way to tell that story is to acknowledge that Americans did bad things to other Americans.
Right.
Yes.
And I, for one, don't think that's putting America in a bad light. That's being honest.
Yes. You have to learn from your history so you don't repeat it.
It's like, I mean, on a different scale, but it's like going to Europe and going to Poland and taking a moment to go look at what happened in concentration camps, but there's nothing there for you to learn.
Exactly. And this is, I mean, it's one I can relate to, having been to Auschwitz as a 12-year-old, and you go into that in the museum, and there's a room filled with suitcases that were brought in, and it hits you as a 12-year-old when you walk into that room, and in the corner of that display there is a brown suitcase with white block letters with my last name on it.
Oh man.
Wow.
And that's the important stories we tell as Americans at the sites in America where they weren't extermination camps, but they were concentration camps.
Yes, they were.
We have to tell those stories.
Exactly.
And so when you look at what Doug Burgum wrote here in such a vague, broad way to ensure that all public monuments, memorials, statues, or similar properties do not contain descriptions, depictions, or other content that inappropriately disparage Americans past or living, and instead focus on the greatness of the achievements and progress of the American people.
Not American people. They're talking about white people. I mean, that's like, they should just really say that, because that's what he means.
That's what this is right. And that's what we're going to see, I fear, with this America 250 celebration that the Trump administration is planning. Let's just call it red, whitewashed, and blue, because that's what this is going to be.
It's crazy because my son is about to leave in a couple of weeks for his Washington, D.C. trip. He's in 8th grade. He's graduating. They go to Washington, D.C. And I was literally just right here. I have the, itinerary going over it. My
had the pleasure of chaperoning my 8th graders last year.
Yep. I cannot even imagine. Cannot even imagine. But, I'm looking at it. They go to the Holocaust Museum, Martin Luther King Jr. Museum, like all these places. I can't even imagine how far this order would go, what this kind of trip would even look like anymore. I mean, where are you going? Would you even be able to go to see the Lincoln Memorial? I mean, what would the Lincoln Memorial even stand for? Like, think about it. I'm blown away by how far this could actually go if he's not reined in.
Yes.
And my only hope is, and just to kind of like deviate a little bit, is the fact that I see headlines today that Elon Musk is calling out this big, beautiful bill as being a total BS bill is just giving me hope.
Grab some popcorn for that.
Right? But it's giving me hope that it's like, you can scream from the rooftops that something is one thing, but it's not. But then I get disillusioned because then you have to have politicians actually care more about the American people than themselves. And I don't have any hope about that. So
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
In DC, my big concern is the Jefferson Memorial, where they have been building a new interpretive center, planning one for years. And the idea there is they're going to tell a much more complete and honest depiction of the very complicated person that Thomas Jefferson was.
Right.
Slaveholder, rapist. You have to
Mhm.
tell all of that.
Right. I think so.
And person who laid out a great vision for America that he came nowhere close to fulfilling.
Mhm.
Right. So you have to tell that whole story, even if that means telling parts of negative parts of Thomas Jefferson's story. It does our kids a disservice to pretend otherwise.
I wonder if progressives went too far in the stripping of names and the, we're not going to honor these people and the toppling of statues when they didn't focus on that and in the middle.
Yeah.
This person did all these awful things and they also, paved the way for a democracy in our country. And they also set up a bunch of amazing state parks and national parklands. And they did. So what's wrong with telling the truth and telling both sides of that story? But now you have both sides. The progressives want to strip it away. So do the conservatives. And then there's us in the middle that want the truth.
Yeah. And I think some of that, especially on Confederate monuments and memorials. I mean, these were all statues that were built not immediately after the Civil War, but by the KKK in
it was a celebration
early 20th century to celebrate white supremacy.
Yeah.
So that this is not a war hero.
True.
Again, these are folks who rebelled against America, who tried to fight against America and the American government and lost. So,
there's a difference though between those people and in San Francisco they tried to take away names of all the different elementary schools and high schools for people that they weren't Confederate war.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So at what point, and we've seen groups like the Audubon Society struggle with this. Here's a great naturalist who also had a very racist past, and how do you do that? Audubon has decided to not rename themselves, but to acknowledge that history. So how do you do that? How do you strike that balance? There's no right answer other than let truth and the honest history be your guide, even when that depiction, when that history makes you uncomfortable.
I mean, I think that there's nothing more American than having a conflicted history. I mean, that is America.
That is America.
We were born with this conflicted history. We came here, that literally born on a conflicted history. So it's just, we should just accept that about ourselves. But it is hard. And I do think, especially around COVID and 2020 and just how, everything from George Floyd to Donald Trump it was just, again, I think all of our emotions in that movement really just made us draw certain lines that, like Kim mentioned, maybe were a little too black and white when they should have had a little more gray in it. But we can't go back now. Right. So I think now we need a little more nuance in our conversation about certain things. But now we have Trump again. And now it's just this.
Yeah, because when I think Donald Trump, I think nuance.
Exactly. There's no nuance with that guy.
No.
I just want him to go away. I can't even believe that we're stuck with this guy for another 4 years. It still blows my mind, Aaron, that we're here.
But here we are, and that gets back to how do we do that?
Yeah.
You send the messages when if you see those signs in the parks telling you to report negative depictions, you send those emails telling them a nuanced depiction is not negative. A nuanced depiction is honest.
Exactly.
And that's where we have to be as Americans.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me more about the objectives of Western priorities and how people can help?
Sure. So we are an advocacy group. We are a research group. We try to position ourselves to make folks aware of what is going on our public lands. We work closely with groups all over the country that are a lot of the more the membership oriented groups that you see out there. We try to be a clearinghouse for accurate information. So I host a podcast. It's called The Landscape. You can find a link there at the website.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And we, my co-host Kate and I, really wonk out on some policy stuff. If you want to get in the weeds on the really nerdy stuff, that's where you go. We have a newsletter every morning called Look West that we rotate among our staff whose job it is, and that's my job this week. I'm on newsletter duty, where we take the most important outdoors and public land stories and elevate those, try to give you a real quick 2-3 minute read and a sense of what's going on out there. So that is some of the best ways to get involved. And then when we get those calls, how do I help? We tell folks, call your neighborhood park. It can be a national park, can be a state park, can be your local chapter of Wilderness Society, Sierra Club, you name it. The folks who are out there advocating for lands, out there getting kids outdoors. That is the best way to be out there, and just spread the word. Share with people what you're experiencing. Share those pictures, share those stories, make sure that they are aware. And I recognize it's hard. There's so much awful stuff going on when you have families being deported. How do you then say, well, also what's happening on these lands and to these animals is also bad? It's
all important.
It's all important. It's all a competition. You have to care for yourself. And hopefully for a lot of people, that's caring for yourself by getting outdoors.
Exactly.
Because we know that's important, and you have to do that.
Absolutely. And especially with summer coming up, and it's gorgeous outside, and we're going to be seeing it right up in our faces. Aaron Weiss, we're going to put all of your links and your podcast in our show notes. So thank you so much for coming on. We'd love to have you back on. So
thank you for having me anytime.
Oh, you're great. Well, thank you so much, and good luck, and keep up the fight.
Bye. Right, thank you,
Aaron. Oh, he was awesome.
I love them.
Again, Aaron Weiss, westernpriorities.org. And again, I know I'm going to be gone this summer. I know I'm going to be on my road trip, but I will be posting on YouTube or doing videos. I'll be doing something on socials. But I'm very curious on what the country is really going to look like. I'm really, it is what it is. But
you mentioned the DC trip that your son is going on. And I was talking to another mom at school. We were at a birthday party over the weekend, and they've decided not to send their daughter this year because of Trump and because of this big parade that'll be happening right about the same time as the DC trip, with everything roped off and coned off. Will they even be able to get to the White House? Will they be able to get to the museums?
What day is the thing?
I think it's June 14th, right around there. And there's all kinds of things happening. Like there's chaos. We've seen that when they've roped streets off, will there be protests? Will there be violence? Like all of these concerns that she had.
He won't be there for it.
They thought, no, we're just and so they were trying to get them to move the trip, or at least stagger the events they were going to, so that they wouldn't be around the Capitol that day. That they would be at,
somewhere else, Virginia,
Washington,
wherever,
or whatever,
Montecito,
do something else that day. So but people are.
Well, Dylan's going to be there 2 days later, so it's on the 14th. He's going to be there the 16th. So
you'll be able to know what happens, and if it's unsafe, you'll know.
Exactly.
And they'll cancel those appearances, right?
I better get my money back. I bought that insurance, so give me my money back. But I'm just. It's going to be a very interesting summer for everybody. I really do have I have hope that people are going to do the right thing. This bill, this big, beautiful bullshit bill is I really do think it's falling apart in front of people's faces. Can we just
drop bill off the other, or can we drop beautiful? How about big B.S. bill? That'd be good.
I'm sorry. Look, you can't have it both ways. And we said this last week. You cannot say that Elon Musk is smart and leading your efficient thing. And then he says your bill is not efficient and is raising the deficit. Both things can't be true. Okay. This is Mike Johnson. He's so mad. He's so effing mad. And I don't think that there's anything I enjoy more than Mike Johnson being mad, because I can't stand this guy. He is such an a-hole. So if you haven't heard, Elon Musk says it's an abomination. I can't stay quiet anymore. You should fire. Elon Musk literally said on X, you should fire House GOP except a couple of lawmakers who vote for this bill next election cycle, because it's bullshit. Like he said it. He's like, this is not doing what you guys say. This is what House Speaker Mike Johnson, I'm going to have to forward it a little bit. This is what he was saying about the response of Elon Musk. Here we go.
Work they've done with he's obviously.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, let me say this. It's very disappointing. Okay, I've come to consider Elon a good friend. He's obviously a very intelligent person, and he's done a lot of great work. We've applauded all the work they've done with Doge and identifying fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. It's a very important service that's been performed, and we're so excited about it. We're now in the process of codifying that. As you all know, the administration has qualified and quantified the fraud, waste, and abuse that they found in Doge. They're sending it to us to codify, and that's what we'll be doing.
Say codify one more time.
Decisions package and the appropriations process. And so that's something we're very excited about. But with all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill. We had a long conversation yesterday. He and I spoke for, I think, more than 20 minutes on the telephone.
He told you
and I extolled all the virtues of the bill. He seemed to understand that. We had a very friendly conversation about it, and I told him that we're achieving not only all of our priorities, all the promises we made on the campaign trail, all the America First agenda wrapped into this legislation. We're also achieving, the top line on this is two very important things. We're making permanent a massive tax cut, and we are making a massive reduction in spending.
Tax cut for who?
$1.6 trillion is the calculation. I've said this many times. I'll be saying it until we get this thing over the line. This is the most amount of money that any government has ever saved on planet Earth in a piece of legislation.
He is so full of shit. Like it could not fall out of his mouth to be more literal. He's so full of it.
They think that by emphasizing the cuts that they're stripping money away from the very poorest of the poor. We're cutting Medicaid. We're not cutting it from the people who are poor and really need it. We're just cutting it for the able-bodied people who are scamming the system.
But they can't.
And we're just cutting it from the illegal people who, they say illegal people who are scamming the system. We're cutting food stamps for the people who are defrauding the system. But they don't talk about the poor people they're affecting. And they don't talk about all the money that they are adding to the deficit these tax cuts and by other things that they're doing that by all estimates will add a lot of money to the money that Americans owe. Our grandkids will be paying for this.
Exactly. I mean, and they can say it and they could say it and they could say it, which is what they love to do. Again, it's Trump's MO. You just say it enough and say it enough, and then they just believe it's true. But it's not true. Everybody's saying, the fiscal hawks are saying this is not the CBO score, all that, right? They're saying, no, this is going to raise the deficit. So every time your Republican dad tells you the country's broke, we need to reduce the deficit, tell them this is going to raise the deficit at the cost of cutting people off of Medicaid, at the cost of hurting your Social Security, at the cost of being full of shit. Like, they're lying to you. And that's it.
Here's some of the details from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. They say this big BS bill would add 2.5 trillion with a T to primary deficits over the coming decade, adding 3.1 trillion to the debt, including interest. There's a table that they give about the deficit increase year by year, and it's astronomical. This is not good for America. What do you think happens when we cut the number of the amount of taxes people pay in? I'm saying, you can change tax code, you can change tax law, but you've got to balance it somehow where, then corporations don't get loopholes that they don't have to pay anything, because we're going to be screwed. The cuts that they're making aren't working for America.
No.
People are showing up in droves to these town hall meetings saying, what are you doing? And
they're paid actors, Kim. They're paid actors. I know.
My only hope, and I'm sad that they're losing things that they desperately need, like perhaps assistance for food or medical care. but because I think America should take care of the poorest among us and the people that need help. But my only hope is that finally these people who went against their own interests to support an administration that we told you would come in and zero in on helping the very richest among us, never had your back. And maybe now they'll get that. Do you think?
Wow. I don't know. I think our hope is in a handful of senators, right? Because it's before the senators, then it's got to go back to the House, and it's always a couple of the same. Murkowski, right? Then we have Josh Hawley, which a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God," but that's because he's wanting to protect Medicaid. Susan Collins, again, another regular one. Rand Paul, he's getting vilified by Trump. Trump is hating on that guy, but Rand Paul is not giving an inch. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, he's saying they view it's an unacceptable level of cuts. He's not gone as far as Rand Paul in saying he's prepared to oppose the final bill, but he has said, quote, "We need to be responsible. And the first goal of our budget reconciliation process should be to reduce the deficit," which this bill does not. And then Tom Tillis is another senator that could be blocking this bill, and they can't afford to lose that many senators. So, not to mention all of the other policy bullshit that they squeezed into this bill that obviously cannot be passed through reconciliation. But still, the giving up of just so much congressional power in this bill, stuff that has nothing to do with the budget. It's scary. It's Project 2025 bullshit.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. Why these Congress people and these senators bend the knee to Trump so much and literally give up their own power.
Because they're scared of him.
How many town halls do you have to see where people are like, "Well, I didn't know that was in the bill," or "I was really against that, but don't worry, that's not going to pass the bird law," or whatever, right? I voted for it because it's not going to pass that. It's just, well,
he's where the money is. And so if you go against him, then he has the money to primary you. He has the money to, badmouth you. You don't know what's going to happen. He's intimidating and scary to people who cross him. And that's why.
Yeah, I guess. He's also batshit crazy though, but whatever.
A little bit. Yeah. You ever watch, well, I know you do. You watch Survivor. I read something about Trump and what he's doing, kind of strong arming Republicans now in the Senate. He spent the last day calling them. And I read something, I don't see New York Times somewhere. Right. And it said that he's promising, one of the senators he talked to said he's promising and making you feel like he's on your side, whether you're a moderate or whether you're a hardline Republican.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminds me of Survivor when you got somebody in the middle and they're playing both. There's got two allied groups and they tell this one person one thing and they tell this other thing, another thing, and they eventually get caught, right? And so is he making more enemies by, pretending that he's on the side of the moderates and that he's also on the side of the hardline Republicans? What's the truth? Or do they just not care?
I just don't think they care. I think they know he's full of shit. I mean, you at this point, if you don't know that Trump will say whatever, he will literally say whatever. Yeah. I mean, the guy literally posted that Joe Biden was a robot or something, like that he had died in 2020 or something.
Yes.
He posted it. It's like written on his Truth Social account. And I know everyone's like, "Oh my God, whatever." And then somebody said, "Oh, he's just trolling." Okay. I don't understand why people are okay with the president of the United States being the country's biggest troll. Like, why is that okay? And they're like, "Well, that's just how Trump is." Is it okay with you though? Like, why is that not okay? Why I know we've had this argument for years, but why is the bar for him so low?
And this is an eye opener.
Get it.
It's an eye opener, but perhaps most people in the United States, their parents didn't raise them to have any class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say have some class, I don't mean it's about money at all. I mean, it's just about the way you speak and the way you treat other people. So when I say, I need to use the restroom. I'm not going to say, as my daughter told me yesterday, I need to take a PISS, which I had to look at her and say, could you have some class? You have a little bit of class? Like, that's not how we
drain the
speak.
lizard.
We're not going to go out in the, I mean, if you're joking and you're in with your family, whatever, but I don't want her to go out in the world and have that be the way that she approaches people in public.
Right, exactly.
But maybe most people never had a parent that said, that's not how we present ourselves.
Right.
Right.
But
And so maybe most people don't
know.
care, and they enjoy this kind of wicked, politically incorrect, even cruel and evil speech, because that's kind of how they want to talk too.
And like there's a lot of people saying, oh, that this is an example with Trump posting that whole thing about Biden of cognitive decline.
Yeah.
But how would we know? How would we know when Trump's cognitive decline is happening? By the batshit crazy stuff he says, because he says it constantly. Like, you can't base it off that because he's been saying this stuff forever.
Yeah.
So he could literally, even my dad, who's a huge Trumper, if my dad was like, I can't even say it in the shade days, Biden died in 2020 and he's a robot, I would get his head checked. You know what I mean? Even though he's a huge Trumper, I'd be like, Dad, you can't be freaking serious, right? Like there's something wrong with you. Yeah. But because it's Trump, we're just like, he's just trolling.
He said he was died in 2020 and was replaced by what? A clone?
A clone or something, yeah. It's like, and the president says posted this, kept it up, and then people have to and not only that, the worst part is then actual adults have to react to it. Like, you've now put your supporters in a position in which they have to have microphones and notebooks and pens put in their face where they have to respond to it.
So I think they saved this is my theory on this. Not that he's not crazy and like, whoa. But I think they saved the craziest claims like that for the times when they're doing the most devious, horrible things.
Yes.
And we know that
true.
the Trump administration is working with this company called Palantir. And according to the New York Times, the goal is to create a file for every American, and it will combine our financial information from the IRS and whatever else, credit reports, the property we own, property taxes, whatever, to our social media, to who we are, who we hang out with, what we believe, to our immigration status, every little bit the government has on you, plus what they can glean from Palantir scouring the internet to find out more about you. They'll have a file on every American, and what will they use it for? Well, could they use it to pinpoint people who don't support Trump and then punish people who don't support Trump?
Are we going to get punished for this show?
Oh, sure. I'm sure we're already on the list, Nikki. We're done. I'm done. I'm out. My husband's like, okay, clock ticking to Luxembourg. We're going to check. Right?
I mean, I just this is like the part of me that's like, that'll never happen. I'm like, they couldn't even get an HHS like report done correctly. Right? But in a couple of years, they might get their shit together, right? Like, I'm like, it's not gonna take that long.
Well, if they're contacting this major data mining and information company, then the chances of it's frightening. It's frightening.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just really hopeful that good triumphs, right? Or that sane people are there. But at the same time, this is the truth of the matter. The genie's out of the bottle, right?
Yeah.
Like between AI, social media, the news. There was a great article on Mediaite, and I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, and I don't even know if it actually happened yet. I was just reading the article about that good luck, good night thing that was on CNN with George Clooney. And it was like a remake of the play or whatever. That's why his hair is all dark or whatever. And they were talking about, just how news has changed, right? And how if Edward R. Murrow was alive today, he wouldn't last 2 minutes.
He'd be like, you're doing it wrong, and I'm not playing with you people.
No, he wouldn't survive. Like, he would be canceled. His news program wouldn't even make it on MSNBC.
Truth. What's that?
Because between social media, the 24-hour news channel, all of our news options, the social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that, and honestly, our move away from just news, which is what the Edward R. Murrow came from, right? There was 3 channels and everyone watched the same stuff, right? We all got our news. It was very the same, right? We all saw the same thing. We only saw news at like 2 times a day. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't all this constant information. That was the Edward R. Murrow time to now where it's just constant information and you can get it from a bunch of different spots, you know? And you can pick and choose what you like to hear. I don't like to hear that kind of news. I like to hear this kind of news. And I want to hear only this kind of news from this kind of source. I mean, that's the difference nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's our detriment. That's the genie out of the bottle. And between that and the ability to spread information so quickly, and now AI, deep fakes, it's scary.
It's
You
very
can
scary.
go down. Have you?
Yep.
There's a new movie. My husband fell asleep last night watching it. I don't know if maybe it's a newsy. Maybe you would enjoy it. I don't know. It's not a really upbeat kind of thing. Mountainhead. It's on
what's that about?
It's on HBO.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you liked Succession on HBO also.
Mhm.
Steve Carell's in it, a bunch of other people. You maybe recognize the other guy's face. I forget. It's about 4 very rich guys. And one of the guys has an AI company that's doing terrible things and creating these deep fakes that's causing these wars like between Gaza and Palestine, like leading to these wars because deep fake videos are happening that are creating these situations that are not real, that are causing people to murder each other in the Middle East. And he's not pulling the plug on it because they just need to watch enough deep fakes to know that it's fake. They just don't know what they don't know. It's like the first time there's this line in it, Kim, that just really stuck with me. There's this line in the movie where he's like, when the first movies were introduced, people ran out of the movie theater screaming because they thought a train was going to hit them. He's like, they didn't stop making movies. They just made more movies to show you that it wasn't really, it wasn't really going to hit you or something like that. And I'm like, there's a difference between that. Yeah, there's the movie. Between that and like creating actual videos that look so real that people can't tell the difference.
That's really interesting. And there's also a difference between you run screaming from a theater, but nobody gets hurt versus people are getting murdered, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like people, and it's interesting. And these guys stay up there and it gets really dark. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you, but it gets really, really, really dark. And
interesting. I think
but
that
also
is up my alley, as a matter of fact. Yep.
And they're extremely wealthy. They're billionaires and they just stay in this house that's called Mountainhead and they just stay in their safety. And, presidents call them and they have this separation from reality because they have all this power. And you think that you can reach people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and reach their humanity. And in this movie, if you kind of go down that rabbit hole, it's like you can't reach their humanity because they don't view the world like you do. You know what I mean? Like they just don't. They create technology that makes them a buttload of money, right? And it is what it is. Exactly. It's not an uplifting movie.
Rami Youssef is the other guy's name. Rami Youssef.
Yeah. And then that guy that's right to the right of Steve Carell, you'll know him if you watch any of those other movies. The other guy, the guy to the right of that guy, he's the worst one of the bunch. Well, they're all kind of bad.
Oh no.
They're all kind of bad, but I think I equate to that guy to Elon Musk kind of. But anyways, it was very interesting. And it's kind of the world we're living where the technology is going full force. And we've lost control of it, honestly. This whole idea of AI and, it's just fun to make ourselves look like dogs with tongues out of our mouths. And now we can look like Tom Cruise. And then in 5 years, what is this technology going to look like? It's frightening what it might look like. Or hopefully we get a grip on it. And the younger generations figure out the technology or they push back against it. Because I was thinking about how does news work in an AI deepfake world? And I think it gets back to the beginnings where you're just going to have to be there. Like no one's going to trust TV news anymore. They're just going to be like, everyone's going to assume it's not real. They're going to assume it's fake.
You have to.
And then
yeah.
you're going to have to be there. And then it's going to go back to newspapers, right? Or something in which you can't use technology to share.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I don't know how we get back to believing something unless you see it with your own eyes. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how you do that.
The only way I can see is that you have sources that you've identified as true, which leads me to go, well, right now people are identifying the wrong sources as true. But if you had people who you found to be honest and credible, and they reported something and admitted when they got it wrong, that would lead me to say, okay, I'm, this source I trust, this one I don't. People don't do enough of that.
I show you a video of, let's just say, something happening, and I say that this is happening, and then someone's like, no, I was there. I've altered now the video. This is what happened. Who are you going to believe? I'm your trusted source. That's their trusted source. Who are you going to believe?
If I go to a trusted source, say my trusted source is Nikki Maduro's news program, right? Mm-hmm. And say I know that Nikki Maduro has a staff of 100 people, and they're all fact checking, and they're tech people that are making sure it's not fabricated or AI used.
Freaking people.
You know what I mean? They're looking, they're making sure that they're sourcing the content.
Deep state, Kim.
But they can figure it out if
liars.
I don't know. Then
That's
we're
what I'm pushing back on.
Then we have no way to know whether, if it's a newspaper, whether it's a lie, and someone can write it as easily as they can concoct a deep fake.
Then you're just going to have to be there on your own.
So then what you're telling me then is something I'm not willing to accept, which is democracy is screwed forever. Because that means we know that we've heard, we've seen quotes in the past, and you and I know it to be true, which is why we chose the profession we did, that you can't have a free and fair democracy without a free and fair press.
Yep.
And so if you're telling me that the free and fair press is done because no one can believe anything, and so we're, there's really no reason to carry on with it, then democracy's done because the people aren't informed, because truth is buried. Well, truth is whatever you want it to be.
I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but if you can make the media fake, if you can make all images fake, or make people not trust what they see on the screen, then you've got them. That's fake. Look, the technology's there. I can make Nikki Maduro say anything I want.
Right.
The voice cloning has gotten so good. I can make her say anything she wants.
And
I want. You can do that. Then you can raise the doubt in somebody's mind.
Yep.
To not trust the news source. And then you've got them. And that's the fear. And that is what Donald Trump, and I'm not even just to lay this at the feet of Donald Trump. It's just that this whole fake news thing really started with him. It's this idea, well, not just him, but it's just this idea of the technology. You know what I mean? The safeguards aren't there. And that also in that movie Mountainhead, there is a guy that was trying that his technology was the safeguards, right? And that's the thing.
You could argue that the manipulation of news and media has been happening for a long time. You probably saw that movie Wag the Dog, right?
Of course.
Where you concoct stories to fit into the narrative that you want to present to the American people. And so it's been happening for a long time, but I agree with you that with the advent of new technologies, it makes it even harder and harder to figure out what's right and what's
real
not.
And what's not. Yeah. And when you have someone in a position of power, and this is what I will lay at Donald Trump's feet, and he knows he's lying, and he knows it, and he says it to the people around him, and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, nope, I don't care. I'm still going to say it to the people. I don't care that it's irresponsible. I don't care that I'm the president of the United States and I know the truth. I'm still going to say what I want to be true. Then that is where the danger lies. And that is why I want him to go away. And that is why I hope that whoever, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whoever replaces him does not keep up that same mentality. I hope it dies with him. I hope that somebody has more class, more integrity, more morality than to keep that going. But I fear that it's going to be a kind of a cut the head off the snake type of thing with this type of GOP. in a million years, I could never imagine. And you guys can say that I'm being partisan here, but I could never, ever imagine anyone besides a MAGA Republican doing the type of blatant lying that he does. That I know politicians lie and twist and all that, but that kind of lying, that blatant, I didn't lose the election even though I know I did, that kind of lying, no. That's
what if you had, I'm still trying to save America, Nikki. What if you had not an FCC, which is a political board, right, affected by politics and appointees and whatever else? What if you had a completely nonpartisan board that surveyed news daily and put out alerts for fake news in the media? That everyone knew that news had to be was going to be evaluated by this fake board to keep people honest about what they reported. And so if you chose to watch the fake news, that would be on you. But for people that had a hard time figuring out, or maybe it gets so complicated that you can't figure it out on your own, what's true and what isn't, you would have a nonpartisan board helping you figure it out. That's the only thing I can think of. No,
we're too far gone for any board to be nonpartisan. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, because the minute somebody hears something they don't like, it's partisan. Because because politics has become sports like. You know what I mean? That's the problem. I wish we went back to politics being boring. You know what I mean? Like, when the hell did I know people cared, but not like this. Like, who? I have friends on social media that I'm like, when the hell did you ever give a shit about politics? Like, not to talk down to them, but I've known you since I was when? And now all of a sudden you're an expert on what? Like,
vaccines? No. Yeah. Right.
Like, and I'm not saying that you can't like catch up or whatever, but I have never in the history of ever seen you ever be like even remotely interested, and all of a sudden you seem to know the history of whatever. You know, color me shocked that you seem to be such an instant expert in all of this. So, but again, I don't want to speak down to the people, but just show me that your sources are more than TikTok memes, and then we can have a conversation. I'm totally down for conversations. The minute you start sending me TikTok memes, I'm just done.
Bye-bye.
I'm done. So anyways, let's just fingers crossed, go ahead.
I want to show you the story. Is it okay if we switch gears?
Oh, please. Let's stop being just so depressed.
Let's stop talking about the downfall of the world. There's this. Okay, so this guy.
Let's go.
Realizes that he's in a party of complete turkeys and switches party. He goes from being a Republican to a Democrat.
Oh,
the catch is that he's a former office holder. So now that it doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, right? So he's not in. He's
now
not.
He's able to share. Yeah, he's a former Republican lawmaker. His name is Joe Walsh.
Oh, it's Joe
Illinois.
Walsh.
Yeah.
Oh,
so he says he
Walsh.
regrets being a divisive political a-hole. So now he's joining the Democratic Party. Day late and dollar short. Now that he doesn't have to be intimidated and scared anymore, apparently he's doing a flip-flopper. Which
I will give him a little bit of credit. Joe Walsh actually. Now, he was a big a-hole. He actually was a very big a-hole, but he has been on social media for actually a bit longer than this. He hasn't switched parties, calling out the GOP for a while. He hasn't switched parties officially, but Joe Walsh has been calling him out and kind of doing this mea culpa type of thing. Like, what the hell is going on? But Joe Walsh was kind of up there with the Republican buttheads for quite a while. But good.
Well, he's got a Substack called The Social Contract.
There you go.
He says he's now officially joining the Democratic Party because the stakes are too high not to become a Democrat. He said, let's start with the obvious. A tyrant sits in the White House. He said, the very thing our founders feared most is here. Throw in the fact that one of our two major political parties is a real and direct threat to democracy and the rule of law, and he's becoming a Democrat.
Yeah.
So
he
thank
has
you.
had a kind of
I
a
wish.
change of heart in recent years. And you know what? I think was it. I don't know if it was.
He was a downright bigot.
Yeah,
in
he
years
was.
past.
He was bad.
And
He was really, really bad.
He said he acknowledges those past remarks, but that's no longer who I am. So is it that people can change, or is it that he got what he sucked all the power and money he could out of politics, and now he's considering his legacy at what he looks back at, and he looks at people, how they view him, and he wants to soften that image? I don't know.
I will go this far. I wish it would have happened when he was in office, because I wish all things happen in office, because thanks, but no thanks. Right. But I think that especially Democrats, because we're always on the right, not always, but we're on the right side of history. Right. We make this mistake where we put ourselves up on the pedestal in which we should be, because the Republican Party has fallen so fucking low. And I'm not trying to stand up on the pedestal, but if you're going to bend the knee to Trump, then sorry, you have no morals. The guy's a total a-hole. Get a backbone, stand up for the American, at least the Constitution, but whatever. Don't get me started.
Here's what he said.
We turned the page.
Said, I went to Congress on a mission to get our debt under control and shake up the political establishment. I was passionate about my cause, so passionate that I said and did things I regret, so passionate that I became way more than I'm proud of, a divisive political a-hole. And he said that now he's got a greater understanding and appreciation for things like LGBTQ issues, structural racism, the need for empathetic immigration reform, the dangers of climate change, the role the government has to play to help care for the neediest. He has done a 180. What happened?
You saw how the party was going. I mean, I think Democrats should welcome people. I think we make a mistake by saying too little, too late. We should be welcoming people, because that's actually what we've been trying to do, right? It's like, wake up, people, wake up. And then when people wake up, we're like, too little, too late. No, welcome them. Be like, yes. Do I wish that you would have done it before? Do I wish you would never have? I wish you would have seen this coming a mile away. Of course, but come now. And I know it's hard not to say, I told you so. Right. I know it's hard to say, how did you not see this coming? I know it's hard to say, why didn't you do this while you were in office? Right. But he didn't. But it's not too late now. You're another vote for a Democrat. You're another voice for what's going to be right. He has a platform. He has a name. He has influence. He has a Substack.
He said, of course, we've always thought and debated about policy, how to best pay for healthcare, whether taxes should be raised or cut, how to best deal with immigration. But he said, we've never thought before about actually remaining a democracy or abiding by the Constitution and the rule of law. And to what you said, Nikki, if you don't welcome people like this in, if you say, oh, you showed your true colors, screw you. But you're not welcoming and saying, I'm glad that you've seen it. Let me show you more. Yes. Let me show you what else you said was wrong and why, and let's talk about that, right? If you don't do that, then look at all the people that voted for Trump. Then they are stuck there. They're never able to, that we don't have this conversation, and we never get enough votes then to fix this mess that we've landed in. Yeah. And it's constantly going back and forth like that, with more people that don't understand, or that that are on the wrong side of history, I would argue, and the wrong side of the Constitution.
And we can learn from them. You know what I mean? Like, what I think, and that's another part of I think it's a blind spot of the Democratic Party is what were we missing? Because we're always the whole right side of history. Like, how did he entice you? What were we missing? I feel like, we had Obamacare. You guys kept talking about wanting healthcare. We were giving you healthcare. Republicans were literally taking it away from you. Why did that appeal to you when we were laying it out for you? Right now, when literally Elon Musk, your guy, is saying it's raising the deficit and you don't want it to, and they're taking all these things away. Why does that still appeal to you? What are we missing? Because if we don't welcome in the people that were enticed with certain language, we're not going to learn how to talk to the people we want to convince.
That's right.
And that's what we need to do.
Mhm.
We need to convince these people in a language in which they understand. And obviously we don't speak that language yet. So we need to learn that language, because I do believe we want to give the American people what they want. We're just not explaining it in a way they understand.
Yeah.
They're only hearing wah, 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 and I don't understand.
Oh, you went away. You muted yourself. And it was so good too. I just want to hear more. There you go.
My phone.
Everything's going crazy over there. Yeah. No, I hear you. I do believe we have to welcome people in. You're still muted. I do believe we have to welcome people in, and yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was my phone. I just feel like we have to welcome in people and speak their language, and I feel like we can learn from them. And I hope that the more we do that, we will be able to. And on that note, I saw this headline, Kim, and I'm just going to read you the headline, and I want to see if you are.
Bring it to me, baby.
CNN anchor agrees that both sides are to blame for that batshit Trump conspiracy post about Joe Biden. Initial thoughts.
Okay.
I don't know if you read the article. Did you read the article?
So I haven't read that article, but I did read. Are you talking about the article about Biden being a clone?
Yeah. So that's the batshit conspiracy post.
Yeah.
But the both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, are responsible for conspiracies. Your thoughts?
I think there are conspiracies on both sides, but I think we all know that it's the crazy MAGA QAnon people that are the real conspiracy theorists. I would say, if you want to blame the conservative press and the press that you would consider liberal, then I would say, yes, both are to blame because both are reporting the story. If you don't want to report the BS and the stories that are floating around out there, the conspiracies to draw your attention away from the fact that they're creating a file on every American, right? Then is it the fault of the Huffington Post for regurgitating the information? Is it the fault of Fox News for regurgitating the information? You could argue that. But if you're saying it's as much a, I don't know, the fault of Hakeem Jeffries as it is Speaker Johnson, I don't think so. I don't think that there's a lot of Democrats in Congress pushing conspiracy theories. Could I be
wrong? If you had to think of a Democratic conspiracy theory, what would you think there was? Like a ridiculous like the Biden is a clone. And I was thinking, I was like, what could it be? What could it be? And then I read the article and I was like, okay, maybe.
So, but then I think when you think of crazy conspiracy theories, like I think of the one you just mentioned with Trump. I think of Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Jewish space lasers. Like that's wild. I don't know about Democratic ones other than when Trump got shot, they were saying it was a setup, right?
Okay. And I still maintain they didn't. That
there's
Trump,
something peculiar about it. And you don't have any proof, so you can't say it, right?
I still maintain.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to storm the Capitol over it. How about that?
The biggest conspiracy was Trump's the greatest lie, right? Where he said that there was election interference or there's something that was amiss the first time he lost. And we all know it was legit and fine. But then this time there would be people that will say, oh, Trump and Elon Musk tampered with Starlink and something happened and they cheated. Yes. No evidence.
Conspiracy.
There will be people that will say, oh, well, look at the patterns of the voting in certain states. But you come to me with proof. Otherwise, it's a conspiracy. I need to have more than what you're giving.
Yes.
So those would probably be the two biggest liberal conspiracies that I can think of.
This is the silly one that when I read it, or because I wasn't listening to it, I was laughing to myself. I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of went along with it. I think we talked about it. Abby Phillip was talking about it, and she's like, the best one might be the fake Melania conspiracy, which Trump actually denounced. He says there was a conspiracy that there were Photoshopped pictures of Melania claiming it wasn't really her by his side. And I would say there was many times where we were like, that's not really her. That's not really her. And I don't know if it was really her or not. It didn't look like, I mean, some of the pictures were, but I would say if there was a ridiculous Democratic, stupid conspiracy, it was probably that one. I would
the pictures of Melania that are naked, nudie, pornographic in nature, where she's in kind of these lesbianic poses, naked and nude, those, I would say, I would have thought the Republicans would have said those are fake pictures, they're not real. But no one denies.
People have magazines with her in them. Literal magazines.
Can't deny that.
No. No, because that's
Yeah.
why he married her. Like, no, everyone knows that's why Melania. But I just thought it was really funny. I was like, Democrats don't do that. And we're like, oh, well, maybe we do.
Maybe
that.
a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But anyways.
But also it becomes easier to do it when the other side does it. And that's something you have to guard against. Because when you see the outrageous claims, oh, you think your election was stolen? Well, we think our election was stolen, right? Yeah. You think this? Well, we got one even with bigger whopper for you. So it becomes easier to believe and to spread things, I think, when you see the outrageous things coming from the other side.
I just saw this headline right now because I was clicking on it. A headline, Elon was butthurt. Axios reports on real reason Musk attacks Trump's bill. Billionaire Trump ally Elon Musk reportedly attacked Trump's big, beautiful bill because he was butthurt, according to a new report.
Oh, they have funny headlines. What's that from? Is that Huffington Post? Or where'd you find that?
This is on Media. According to Axios reporter Mark Caputo, who spoke to two people in frequent communication, Musk attacked Trump's bill after becoming irritated over 4 inflection points. They reportedly included Musk's inability to continue serving in his position as government employee beyond the imposed time limit, Trump's administration's refusal to run air traffic control systems from Musk's satellite internet company Starlink, Trump's decision to withdraw his nomination of Musk ally Jared Isaacman to serve as NASA administrator, interesting, and the tax credit for electric vehicles being cut from the bill. Interesting. I just love the fact that it says butthurt.
You imagine if we did cut a tease like that back in the KGO days. You get the hotline would ring and be like, can we not use that word in the tease? Yeah, but that's pretty funny.
No. But anyways, okay. Okay, so let's wrap up the show. I have 2 things that I want to say. My son is graduating on Thursday.
Yay, happy graduation, sweet Dylan baby.
So it is graduation. I think 8th grade I will tell you this, Kim. The other day, I took my son shopping. How formal do you think someone needs to dress for 8th grade graduation?
A nice pair of pants and a colored shirt.
Okay. Do you want to know how long I had to walk around a mall? 3 freaking hours to get a black shirt, pants, and a tie. For my son, I love my son to death, but the guy, I swear, is going to be the death of me for shopping. So we finally got an outfit. I got to clean my house and do that. Not only does my son graduate on Thursday, he turns 14 on Monday. He goes to Washington, D.C. on the 16th, and then we go on our road trip. So we've got a big month ahead, and life is short. Yeah. I don't mean to end on a bad note, and I did not give you a warning about this, so you're going to have to give me just a little bit if I get emotional. I'm dedicating the show to a friend of mine. Nope, take the balloons off. You can leave it black. A friend of mine passed away on Saturday.
I'm so sorry.
And so I'm going to dedicate this show to him. And so I'm going to show pictures because I'm just going to get all emotional. He was a great guy. And I just would be remiss. I just want to show this picture of him. So this picture is going to make me laugh. This is my friend, Nick Palmer. That's Marley. That was right after I had Marley. And you can't see it in the picture, but his hair was sticking up. And so we took this picture. So this was like 2009. You'll see News Talk 1530 KFDK all the way in the back. Nick was younger than I was, and he passed away on Saturday. Cause of death is still out, but he was someone that I just instantly clicked with. And I just loved this guy. He got me my job briefly at KCBS. He was the assistant news director at KCBS. And my good old friend, Brett Burkhart, unfortunately was the one that had to break the news to me on Sunday that Nick had passed away. So Nick and I've known him. I mean, I started at KFBK in 2006, and I worked the mornings, and he was the first guy that I met there. I mean, these are my KFBK days.
Jared, I see.
Yeah, there was and then that on the right is Keith. And I took this picture because Keith, the guy on the right, Keith, was the guy that got me my first job in radio because we went to San Jose State together. And so I took this picture. I'm like, look, it's the first guy that got me my job at San Jose State, and then the first guy that I worked with in Sacramento. So, anyways, I dedicate the show to Mike Simpson. I don't know if you know Mike Simpson. You remember Mike Simpson. So, anyways, I dedicate the show to my friend Nick Palmer, who died way too young.
I'm so sorry.
Anyways,
so sucks. Yeah,
I just love Nick, and he went way too early. He was just a great guy, and I'd be remiss if, and he was a great radio guy. He was an assistant news director. He had a great eye for news and ear for news, but he was funny, and I loved him to death. And he was always up for, a good time and a drink. And I just love him. And
Nikki, I'm so sorry.
I'm not going to even show my face more, but this show is for you. And I absolutely love you, Nick. And thank you so much for your years of friendship. And I'm going to miss you so, so very much. So again, I don't mean to end on a bad note, but he did just pass away. And I'd be remiss if I did not say anything to him. So again, you guys click the thumbs up, subscribe, and all that. I love you guys. We will be back next Thursday. I'm just gonna end it right there. And
I'll do this part. Please click the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't.
And do all of those things. Thank you.
Please
so much.
go check out Auntie Tabby's because they have this most amazing sauce.
Yes.
And we want to support them as well. You can use the code Nick Kim. The website is Aunty, AUNTY, Tabby, TABBYS.com. And that's pretty much it. You guys have a great rest of your day. This is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.